U.S. Attorney General Alberto Gonzales. Mr. Attorney General, it's great of you to be here. Your reaction to what Teakaw was saying, is there a correlation between higher gun ownership and lower crime rates in this country, do you think?
Well, I think that, I think we should all be in favor of responsible gun ownership. And the question is, how do we get there? And while I support the president's, I think, motive in trying to get there, I think that the way that he did it in this particular case has actually hurt his cause, because I think it's raised suspicions about what is his real intent. And I think that is very unfortunate. Again, I'm in favor of responsible gun ownership. There are ways to do it, and obviously we have to do it in a way that's consistent with the Second Amendment.
What are those ways, and do you think, because the alternative would be with not using an executive order, you take this to the Congress, but do you think a Congress, when you say, I want you to tell me what you think responsible gun ownership is and why we don't have it now, in your opinion, but also, would Congress move on anything related to greater restrictions, or even more background checks or more registrations in terms of gun dealers?
Well, with respect to registration, I think people would be more comfortable with expanded background checks if they knew that the information in the database would not be used for any other purpose, and if they felt comfortable that the database was accurate and complete. So that would be one thing that Congress could work with the executive branch in trying to achieve. Again, I think what the president is proposing here, quite honestly, is really not inconsistent with what the law already says, which is, if you are engaged in the business of dealing in firearms, you have to register as a dealer. And the law does not exclude the Internet. The law does not exclude gun shows. And so I think what the president has done, actually, you could argue, is not inconsistent with existing law. And what he's trying to do here is clarify, give a directive to the ATF and law enforcement, federal law enforcement, that this is a way that we're going to interpret the law, because it is existing law. Now, the problem that the president has, of course, is this will require extensive manpower in order to track people engaged in sales at gun shows, for example. And that's why he's asked Congress for additional resources, additional manpowers at ATF, right, additional money for ATF. And so what he's proposed, I think, it's consistent with law. Unfortunately, the way that he did it has really alienated those on the right who are already suspicious of his motives.
So if you were Attorney General today, would you tell the president, I wouldn't do this?
Well, I'm not sure that would be my job as Attorney General would be primarily first to tell him whether or not what he's proposing to do, that he has authority to do. Now, if my relationship with the President of the United States is such that like I had with President Bush, I would feel very comfortable in telling Mr. President, you have the authority to do this. As a matter of policy, I'm not sure this is a wise approach, and let me tell you the reasons why.
So you don't think it's unconstitutional, as many have suggested?
You mean taking this action through executive order?
Yes, sir. Yes.
I could make the argument, and obviously the lawyers of the Department of Justice and this current Attorney General have advised the President that he does have the authority to do this. Again, the statute is very clear. If you are engaged in the business of dealing in firearms, you must register as a dealer. It does not say, it does not carve out, sales over the Internet. It does not carve out sales at gun shows. And so you can certainly make the argument that this is very consistent with existing law.
Mr. Attorney General, I want to get your response, because a lot of what you hear from Republicans and conservatives about gun violence is that it's a problem of the mentally ill, of the mentally disabled. President Obama wants to set aside $500 million, which would have to go through Congress, for treatment of mental disorders. And then there's also the idea that was proposed of using the Social Security Administration database to help identify people who should be prohibited from buying guns. Is that a privacy issue? Is that a giant can of worms that we as a nation have to be dangerous about opening?
Well, we live in a society today where we're much more forgiving about people that have perhaps mental challenges, and but it is clear that I think the court has been fairly consistent in saying that that would be a legitimate basis to prevent someone from purchasing a firearm if, in fact, they have some kind of mental illness. And I think common sense tells us that if someone has a mental problem, that we don't want them purchasing a firearm because it could be dangerous to themselves and to others. And part of the challenge we have today is that information is not getting into the databases. I talked about the importance of making sure the databases are accurate and complete. And part of the problem we have today is that many states who have this information are unwilling or unable to share that information. And I think what President Obama would like to see is to try to find ways to encourage states to come forward and share that information and include it in the database and make the databases more complete.
Former Attorney General Alberto Gonzales, so good to see you. Thank you so much, and a belated Happy New Year to you as well.
Thank you. Good to be with you.